Welcome to Zeitgeist Radio. I'm your host, Morgan Rowe, founder of the Zeitgeist Academy. Zeitgeist means spirit of the times, and it is the collection of cultural forces that all contribute to what it feels like to be alive and part of a dynamic culture. Every episode, I speak with someone from a unique musical subculture. We dig into their passion and explore how music is a powerful force that brings people together. If you're like me, you come out of these interviews with all sorts of questions. Each week, after speaking with one of our amazing guests, I dive into something they introduced us to that I find interesting or important. I write a blog post about it and email a nice tidy bundle to your inbox every 2 weeks. Never miss an exploration of an awesome musical subculture. Join the Academy and sign up for my free newsletter at zeitgeistacademy.com/radio. My guest today is Larissa, a.k.a. Zaara, a belly dance performer and teacher out of Atascadero, California. Larissa, welcome to Zeitgeist Radio.
Well, thanks for having me.
I'm so excited to ask you all about belly dancing. So, let's start with how long did you, when did you get into this? And can you tell people kind of like what is belly dance? Because I think a lot of people think like old movies from the 80s.
Oh yeah. When I first started getting into belly dancing, a friend of mine was performing at the local Renaissance fair. And my girlfriends and I, we went to go support her and we see it, and I was just mesmerized. I was just like, I have to do that. I have to learn how to do that. So as soon as my friend was done performing, we pulled her aside and we were like, where can we take classes? So she introduced us to her teacher and we started taking classes with her. This was my junior year in high school. So that's really dating myself.
We won't say how long ago that was.
Yeah.
Just a minute.
So ever since then, I've been doing it. And I started out just taking like the beginner classes. And the next thing I know, my teacher is like, oh, you're really good. And you guys should perform. And we're like, what? Okay.
What was your first performance?
Vine Street Showcase.
Wow, you remember that immediately.
I do. Because it was very cold.
Oh, tell me all about it.
Yeah. Because so Vine Street Showcase is always in December. It's like a Christmas themed thing. And it's always freezing cold. Knock on wood, thanks climate change for making it slowly warmer every year.
Oh, no.
But it used to be like 40, sometimes 30 degrees at night because we do it at night because Vine Street Showcase is all about the lights and the Christmas lights. So yeah, we would be all bundled up until we had to perform, then throw everything off and then wear our belly dance costumes.
Oh my gosh. And how did that first performance go? Were you like super nervous?
I was pretty nervous, and my teacher had the entire beginning class perform, and the stage was really small. So we were all just crowded on this little tiny stage, just hoping that we didn't break it.
Oh man.
Which we didn't, so yay.
Hey, how big was this class?
There was about 20 women in it.
Gosh.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Yeah, a lot of them only took it for a few classes.
Yeah.
I was one of the diehards.
I still are one of the diehards.
Yes.
Awesome. So, I have so many questions. You have so many stories. So, where did Zaara come from?
It actually came from a Bollywood movie.
Nice.
Because that's my other passion is Bollywood. Traditionally, somebody is supposed to give you your belly dance name. But Lindsay and Annette took too long, so I just gave myself my own dance name.
Nice. And so was that a character that you really liked, or did you like the sound of it?
Yes. I both. I liked the character from this particular movie that I saw, and I just liked the name of it. I was like, ooh, Zaara.
Yeah,
That
sounds
sounds
cool.
nice. It rolls off the tongue really well.
Yeah. So before we get into a little more about Zaara, I think another good place people should get some context is Renn Faire.
Mm-hmm.
So how many Renn Faires have you done, do you think?
Oh boy. Wow, a lot. So since the first time that I went in slow, and I've been to a Renn Fair pretty much every year since then, at least one. minus, of course, our
And you
pandemic years.
right, but you've also gone other places,
Yes,
right?
I've
You've
gone to
traveled,
Vegas,
yeah.
San Jose, Ojai, Renn Fair. Oh, R.I.P. Ojai. Was one of the best fairs we ever went to.
Can you give people I feel like a lot of people know what Renn Fair is, but in case there's folks out there that have never been to one, can you give people like a real down and dirty, what is a Renn Fair?
Oh boy. Well, there's two different types of fairs. There's ones that try to be a little bit more historically accurate. They're going for that traditional medieval English time period. That's kind of what our local Renn Fair is like. And then there's the other fairs that they kind of technically call themselves fantasy or pleasure fairs. And those are kind of like just a free for all. It's people can dress up as fairies. I've seen folks dressed up like full on like dragon humanoid costumes. It's really fun.
So those are more of a fantasy element
Yes, yes,
versus others that are more like people are still in costume, but it's more like traditional costume.
yes.
Yeah, and you walk around and there's like, turkey legs
Mhm.
and you won't see like, you know, you won't see neon signs. It's a lot of handmade
No.
goods.
Yeah, yeah, it's a lot of the vendors are all, like, artisans, they sell, handmade soaps, they sell a bunch of, like, weapons, sometimes the people selling them are the ones that make them, sometimes not, they just collect them from various people, people selling, like, leather goods, furs, just yeah, a lot of,
Yeah.
like, natural handmade stuff.
Yeah. So how does your belly dance fit into these Ren fairs? Like, let's talk first the like more common one.
Okay, yeah. So our troupe actually had to come up with a whole background story because our fair, again, in particular, is very picky about it being historically accurate. So our guild leaders, Ron and Margie, their Ren Fair personas as Lord Shirley and Princess Samsonia. So they actually found that these were real people in that set time period that our fair is supposed to occur, which is about mid 1500s. So Lord Shirley was kind of like a diplomat ambassador from England, and he went to a lot of the Middle East. And when he was traveling, he met a princess from Persia. Her name is Princess Samsonia. So they fall in love. He marries her, and then she becomes like an additional ambassador for Persia to England. So they traveled around all across Europe and Middle East. And the princess, as was pretty common for women in her court, you didn't travel alone. You had ladies in waiting, you had just women to kind of entertain you. So that was kind of the whole point of the belly dance troupe is we were her entertainers and some
Hmm.
of us were her servants. We served her whenever she needed something.
And hence where Zara kind of comes into play, right? Zara is a
Yes.
character in her
Yes.
court.
So my character is actually from the Mughal Empire. It's because the name is actually a Muslim name. So yes, my character is a court dancer from the Mughal Empire.
Nice. When you're at these fairs, can you describe the setup of because it's not just like, oh, it's your turn to go on stage. Like you guys have a whole setup that you do.
Yeah. Well, sometimes. I mean,
Well, the one I
that's
saw you did.
that's the goal. That's the plan. It doesn't always go to plan. But yes, usually we have a particular set that we put together. We have dances that we practice. Most of them are group dances, and then we try to sprinkle in a solo or a duet just to kind of mix it up a little bit. Sometimes when things don't go to plan or we're missing somebody, we'll just throw a soloist on and be like, here, fill in some space, entertain the people so they don't go away.
Yeah. Um, and you're dancing on a stage. You like, can you describe like I want to get into the actual dance, but I think the scene of it and the setting of it
Mhm.
is kind of like essential to the feel of it. So
Yeah.
what does that look like? The like your area.
Well, back in the day, we used to not really have a stage. We just had rugs. We just laid them all out and hoped that that was big enough for as many dancers that we had.
Sure.
Um, Ron, our guild master, he actually kind of built us a stage, and it lasted for a little bit while and then just kind of started to wear down. So we had to get rid of it. And then this last year, when you saw me
Yeah.
dance, the fair had another stage that it wasn't getting used because they weren't able to recruit enough performers. So they just built the stage in our encampment, which was
Wow.
really, really nice.
Do you prefer a stage or do you prefer the rugs?
I prefer a stage if we're going to be doing the sword or balancing stuff on our heads. Like, it's so much easier on a stage.
Yeah.
The rugs can be fun because then you're a little bit closer to the audience. I can interact and engage with them a little bit more. But balancing stuff on my head on rugs is not as easy.
Yeah. Okay, so let's get into the actual dance. Now that we've set the scene, what are some types of dances? You know so many.
Yes. So there's different types of dances, and they depend on the different countries because belly dance is kind of all over. It originally came from Egypt, and Egypt back in the day used to be broken up between Upper Egypt and Lower Egypt. So there was actually two distinct styles that came out of that. Upper Egypt was predominantly the Saidi dance. It's a lot of like lifting your feet and leg work, and usually they would use sticks or a cane. And then Lower Egypt is there isn't really a specific name for it. It's kind of just generally referred to as like folklore dancing. I think the Kaligi style is from there too, and that was like women would wear these really billowy caftans, and they would dance a lot with their hair. They would kind of like throw them around, and it was a very specific type of movement that you would do.
Wow, I had no idea.
Yeah.
Just about those two, and that's only one country.
Yeah.
Um,
And Greece has their own style too. I forget the name that they call it
yeah.
specifically in their country, but I think the Greek dances are a little bit more like there's more clapping, more spinning, and I think a little bit more prop work because most Egyptian dances don't typically rely on props. I think the stick and the cane is probably the only exception.
Sure. And then what about some of the what are what are some things you've balanced?
Oh gosh, I've balanced swords, bowls, baskets, metal trays. I know I forget canes. I think that's it.
There's so many. Yeah, no, and I think I don't know. I was really impressed with the bowl that you. I don't know. There was one particular dance where Larissa, like you were basically upside down. You were bent in half, and somehow this bowl was still balanced. How do you do that?
Yeah. So the trick is to keep your chin parallel to the ground. So I can like if I lean really far forward, as long as my chin's not dipping down and I'm keeping my head up, whatever is on top of my head's gonna stay.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
It was incredible.
It helps that we wrap our heads with fabric, and we pick specific things like fabric that's really textured and grainy. That's going to keep something more stable, and it's not going to slip off.
I did feel much better after Larissa told me that because she was like, "Here, do you want to try balancing this on your head?"
Yes.
Of course, sure, yeah. And I have a lumpy head apparently, and it just kept falling.
There are tricks of the trade. Some dancers will also, for their swords, they'll have little grooves cut into the blade right where they know the balance point is, and that will help them balance it.
Wait, were you balancing swords on your head or on your? I was picturing on your like hands. or
Yeah, no, we
something.
balance them on top
On
of
your
our
head.
heads. Yeah. There are dancers I've seen that will balance them on like their shoulder or even on their hip bone.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, those ladies are next level.
So the rest of belly dance, I think when a lot of people think belly dance, they picture like just like moving your kind of like doing like a wave or something with your belly, but it's so much more than that. Are there like can you describe some of the moves and some of the like
Yes.
muscles that are
Yes.
involved in this?
So traditional Egyptian belly dance actually focuses more on hip work. And that's like all kinds of isolation of hip work that you could possibly think of. That's like lifting one hip higher than the other, dropping the hip.
Which people like try this at home. Like try this right now. Try just like doing
Yes.
that. It's almost
Yes.
like a stretch. It's a workout. Like
Yes.
I do
Yeah.
that and I'm like, oh wow, I gotta like I
Yeah.
feel
If you don't feel
stiff.
a muscle pinching or straining, then you're not doing it right.
Are those the dances that have so when would you use those little like disc
Oh, yes.
shiny things?
They're finger cymbals, or they're called zills. Um, I mean, you can use those at any
I mean
time.
like the ones on your hips, the like when you think of belly dance, a lot of people think of the like
Oh,
shimmy
the coin
things.
belts.
Yeah.
Yes. So the coin belts came from a time when women, they didn't have their own money and they didn't have bank accounts. So a lot of the times women got a dowry when they got married, and all of their wealth, like their coins, they would sew it into their clothing. So that way they always had it with them. And it kind of became a thing of like, oh, well, when I move, it makes this cool sound. So let's dance with that on us.
Nice.
Um, and it just like became like just add more and more and more. And if a dancer had like a lot of coins on her belt, it was kind of signifying like you're pretty
You're
wealthy,
wealthy.
like you had money.
Yeah. Yeah. Is it hard to make those things shimmy?
No,
Shake? Oh,
actually,
really?
no.
Like, I don't know, maybe I'm just really inflexible in my hips because it seems like just moving that fast would be difficult. I
Yeah,
don't know.
they're pretty sensitive. Like just a little bit of hip movement will start to make them jingle and move.
How
So,
many costumes do you have or like have you danced?
oh boy, I've had a lot because I've also changed size wise over the years. When I first started, I was in high school.
You're
I
right.
was a tiny petite little person, um, and I didn't have any money. I was totally poor at the time because I'm a 17-year-old.
Right.
So a lot of the stuff me and my girlfriends made not well. Not well at all. We did the best we could. We went to Walmart and bought those simplicity patterns.
Oh, yes.
I did the best we could. And then we went to a belly dance convention, Rakasa, which is like the biggest belly dance convention on the West Coast, and just lost our minds. We were like, oh my God, there's so many shiny, pretty things. Like, I want one of everything. So, we'd save up all of our money and buy like one thing
Yeah.
and then just like, yes, add this to my collection. So yeah, just over the years, I've gotten some stuff for free from other dancers. I mean, that's pretty common in the belly dance community. Because, we're women, our sizes fluctuate. And so we end up
Passing
passing things around. Yeah. Oh, this no longer fits me anymore. Here, this will probably fit you. Here you go. And I've done that with my stuff too. I've given it to some of the younger dancers. And yeah, just, I would say, gosh, at the most one time, I probably had like 10 full different costumes, but
Full
a lot of our
costumes.
stuff is very like piecework. Like I have a skirt that I can combine with different things, or
Yeah.
a top, or a bra and belt or coin set that you can mix and match with stuff.
How often do you change during performances? Do you change or is it
Oh God, we did that one time for Mid-State Fair, and that was a nightmare.
Mhm.
We never did it again after that because we were like, oh no.
Nice. Okay. So let's go back to the dance a little bit. Um so is each dance related? I know there are specific songs that are played. Like is a dance tied to a song or do you make up your own
In
dances?
traditional Egyptian belly dancing, yes, typically. Usually dances are related to the particular rhythm that is played. So it's the rhythm on the drum. So we have one dance called Ayub. Ayub is a specific drum rhythm that is played. So our dance kind of revolves around that rhythm.
Sure.
If it's more of like a tradition, like a recorded piece, and there's like lyrics to it, then we kind of just do whatever. And yeah, but usually when we create a set list, we try to have like a general theme that goes with it. So one year we did, we called it our primal set.
Ooh.
So we did this like African fusion stuff, and that was so much fun. Oh my gosh, we actually learned some African dance moves, which, wow, belly dance is pretty challenging as it is, and then to learn African on top of that was intense.
Yes, yes. Oh, so what goes into crafting a set? Or is it just like, you know what, we just gotta fill time?
I think we usually like to start with kind of a general idea of what we want the theme to be. For Renn Faire, that's a little bit easier. We're trying to just stick to things that are more traditional, things that make sense for the fair that we're at. Again, with our local fair, they want it to be more historically accurate. So we try to stick to pieces that are more focused on the drum rhythm.
Mhm.
So yeah, we've done Ayub. We do a shift-to-telly piece that's usually more for soloists, because shift-to-telly is a really fun rhythm. You can do it really slow and be like really slinky, and then there's a faster version. It it almost sounds like a different song, but it's not. It's the same exact rhythm. It's just sped up. So that one's a fun one to do. Um, and then Rock Sharky. That's a ballady based dance number. It's always a crowd favorite.
Why is it a crowd favorite?
It's really fast.
Okay,
And
okay.
it involves clapping. People love to be able to clap along, I guess.
Sure.
That's seems to be very popular with
Yeah,
the
audience interaction.
Yeah, yeah. The drummers like to drum it too. Like they always put a little extra into their drumming when we do that one. So,
Nice. How many drummers will you have in a troupe when it's like a full troupe?
oh man, the best that I think we ever had is we had either 5 or 6 drummers, and, we had one guy in particular, he was really, really good, like, he was our lead drummer, so he would do all of the extra flourishes, so, go into a little drumming thing here. So, a lot of, belly dance music, the drumming, there's different parts, kind of like how when you have in an orchestra, there's, like, uh, a flute seat 3, 2, and 1.
Sure.
So the threes are kind of doing like the very basic backbeat, and then you have the second level. They're maybe a little bit more than the backbeat. They're adding a little bit on, and then the lead person is doing all of these extra flourishes. And for drumming, that involves like a lot of these like tacks and slides off of the drum face. It's really technically hard. There's not a lot of drummers that can do that. So if you have somebody who can do it, like you let them shine.
Yeah. So you get almost a solo for them too, like
Yes, yes,
yeah.
yes. Actually, a guy that we've known for a really long time, Keith Crowhawk, reached out to us this year and he said he wanted to perform with us. And he is one of these guys who are
You're like,
incredible. He's an
"Yes."
incredible drummer. He drums for the Cal Poly Arab Music Ensemble. So the fact that he's coming is really exciting. We're like, oh yay!
Nice. Nice. Yeah. So let's let's talk about Ren Fair again. Um, it's kind of a bit of a commitment, right?
It is, yeah,
Can you
yeah.
describe I mean, you're basically out of pocket for 2 weeks? Is that about right?
Well, a lot of our stuff has been in the troupe for a long time. Like we've reused a lot of stuff. Um, when I'm in thrift stores, I'm always looking for like newer fabric to kind of replace some old stuff because things just get, weathered from the sun. Do need to look at replacing some of our rugs. But that's usually something like we'll try to like pool our resources together.
Yeah.
Although Ron and Margie, our guild leaders, they kind of have spent most of the money. Um, I think because they know for a long time a lot of us were
Yeah.
poor and or going to school, so we didn't have the money. And their boomer age, they're very settled. They own their own home. They're both retired now, so
How is there just like a huge storage unit with all of this stuff?
yeah. Well, we have a trailer that
Yeah.
most of the stuff just kind of stays in, and then Ron and Marky have a storage unit at their property where they've stored some extra stuff.
Yeah. So the fair, because the fair itself is what, every weekend?
So
Is it every day or is it every weekend day?
So our Renn Faire is pretty small. It's just the one weekend.
One weekend?
Yes. There are fairs that do like a 2 weekend. So they'll do one weekend, week goes by, nothing's going on. Next weekend, have the fair. And then there are other fairs that do it for an entire month.
Yeah.
So those ones actually will have like permanent structures
Yeah.
at the fair site that they just leave up all month long. And they'll have different themes for every week. So they'll have a week of like the theme is fairies or mermaids. And they had one week where the theme was belly dancers. And those are really fun. We've never actually gone to a month-long one because
Well, you'd have to like quit your job or go on.
Our troop would not have enough dedicated people to pull that off.
Yeah. That sounds like so much. I mean, even just what you've been describing, like you basically go underground during Renn Faire week. Like it may only be the weekend, but for you guys with all of the setup and making sure that everything is, the way it's supposed to be.
Well, my group, like we actually can get our setup up pretty quick. Most of the other people at the fair have to come, sometime during the week and start setting up. We show up the Friday before.
Nice.
And just go to town, put everything up, decorate, and we're usually done before it even remotely gets dark. So
nice.
We've got it down to an art form.
Awesome. So you've mentioned, so where else, what are some other places that you've performed? Obviously, so you've mentioned the Renn Faire and then the Christmas show.
Mm-hmm.
Have there been other places or is it mostly those two?
We did do Elegant Evening.
Oh, what's that?
In downtown Paso. It's something that Paso has done for a really long time, and it was originally created to kind of help drive business in the downtown area of Paso, especially for during Christmas time, wanting to keep people shopping locally instead of spending their money in big box stores or online. And it was also in coordination with the schools doing like plays. So they would always do the Nutcracker play. And so in the stores, they would do in the window display, they would have the actors dress up as their Nutcracker characters and pose as if they were a mannequin in the window. And they were supposed to like not move. And so people would like try to mess with them to get them to break character and stuff. And then they would have the band play, and then the belly dancers. We had a particular area we would perform, and they had other like children's dance groups, choirs. It was all just kind of to entertain people and to get people to be downtown spending money for Christmas.
It does sound like another winter thing.
Yes, I know.
What is it with that?
I don't know. I don't understand why that kept happening. It just did.
I guess we should clarify that yes, the outfit is kind of like you see in the movie. Like it is fairly non-covering.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So it's, basically a top and then some like loose flowy pants.
But there are workarounds too. Like, so we would wear harem pants under, or sometimes just tights under our skirts, like thick fleece lined tights, boots. And sometimes you like, there's belly dancing type of like choli tops that were long sleeved, so you could have your arms covered, so you weren't totally exposed. And to be fair too, once you start dancing, you get kind of warmed up.
Yeah. So I think some people think belly dancing and they think like just like the sexy element. That's kind of gross. What would you have to say about that?
Well, it gets back to the exoticism of like Orientalism. I mean, this has been going on for a really long time as Europeans going to Middle East and finding that culture exotic and just sexualizing the women because they dress differently. I found this a little while ago actually, and it's really interesting because it gets back to kind of like the translation stuff and culture differences. So in the Middle East, women don't wear corsets. I mean, they don't wear any kind of binding around their stomach region. But obviously the women in Europe did. So when the men were going to places, now most of the time they didn't see or interact with women until they started going to like the palaces and being entertained.
Mhm.
And, kings and queens and noblemen always had some type of entertainers. And so they didn't think anything of it. They would have somebody perform for them. They're like, oh, we're sharing our culture with you. And then they'd see these women not wearing any type of corset or binding material. And they were just like scandalized by it. They're like, oh my God, you're women. They thought that they were bare bellied. And that's kind of where the term belly dance comes from. It wasn't necessarily their belly was dancing. It was just that, oh my goodness, they're not like constricting their stomachs because like they did cover their stomachs. They wouldn't expose it like a lot of we see in the artwork or like
Right.
what Princess Jasmine was. But that's not a thing ever. No.
Right. Right.
Um,
That's
so
interesting.
yeah, they never danced with exposed bellies. It was just because they weren't wearing corsets or stays or any type of binding material over their bellies. So it was just like the men were just like, "Whoa, scandalous."
So scandalous.
Yes.
The mission of the Zeitgeist Academy is simple. I want everyone to live their best musical life. If your dream includes singing with confidence, I got you. I made a mini online course so you can get out of musical drama and finally understand which vocal elements make you sound good. Banish forever those fears of being out of key, off rhythm, and other assorted mayhem. Step into your best musical life, my friends. Sign up for the free course at zeitgeistacademy.com/radio.
So do you feel up to telling some Renn Faire stories?
Oh God.
There's some really good ones.
Yes. I love telling Renn Faires stories.
And this whole culture is just so interesting. And I
Yes.
think a lot of people have no idea.
Oh my God, the shenanigans we get up to.
There's a lot of shenanigans.
There is so much. Like I'm sure people think that they see that stuff during the daytime and think that that's wild enough. And I promise you it gets so much more wild at night because then we don't have to behave in front of the general public. And people get very good and drunk. So I will share a story that is about me because then I won't get in trouble for sharing it. So this was at the Ojai Renaissance Fair. It was a beautiful location. It was right on the lake. There was grass, which is very exciting. Now, a lot of Renn Fair sites have grass, but it gets very cold at night. And I had bought these boots, these like witchy style boots that went up to my knees. I loved them. I was so excited to wear them because I don't get to wear them during the day because I'm wearing belly dance stuff. So at nighttime, like, oh, I'm going to wear my sexy witchy boots and like a peasant blouse and, that kind of thing. And we were walking around at night and I had like a few drinks, but I wasn't like super drunk. I was just a little buzzed. And I trip on a tree root. I didn't fall. I caught myself. And then my friends who were walking with me at the time, they were like, oh, are you okay? And then I said in this exact way, and I have to always remember to not say it the correct way. But I said, I'm dark and it's drunk. And I knew like, after I said it, I was like, no, wait, I meant, and my friend Jake, he was like, no, we all heard it. And we're going to remember this forever. You're never going to live this down. I was like, cool, great. Yes. And so then the next day, Jake comes up to me and he's like, hey, you know that bone pin guy? So there's this guy who sold these bone pins and they had all these different quotes and phrases from like movies and pop culture and stuff on them. So Jake comes up to me, he's like, hey, so yeah, that bone pin guy, he makes custom ones. And I was like, where is this going? He's like, you should have him make a pin with what you said last night. And at first I was like, is that weird? Is that a weird thing to do? And I was like, everyone else has like a crazy Renn Fair story. And this was like when I had just started going to fairs. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to just double down on this and go for it. So I tell Jake, okay, I'm going to do it. So we go to the bone pin guy and ask him if I can make a custom one. And he said, "Oh yeah, just write on here what it is you want." So I write it down and then he reads it and he looks at me and he's like, "Is this from something?" And I was, "No, no. I said that last night." And he just starts laughing and he's like, "I love it. I love this." He's like, "Can I make more of them with this?" I was like, "I mean, yeah, I guess if you really want to."
You're like, just cut me a royalty check and we're
Yes.
good.
So he, because when they're custom made, it takes him a while to make them. So he said, "Okay, like I'm gonna go be at this fair in a few months." And I was like, "Oh, well, my troop's gonna be there too." He said, "Perfect, you can pick it up there." S- So I pick it up and I put it on my pirate hat, which I pretty much always wear at some point at Renn Fair, especially at night when we're all hanging out and partying. And I remember like the next year, I'm at another guild, we're hanging around out just talking. And this guy in the middle of a conversation, he like turns to me and he's like, "Wait, are you it's dark and I'm drunk out, girl?" And I'm like, "Yes." How other people now know about this story. And he presumes to tell me, like, "Oh, yeah, I heard about it from such and such person." And I was
Pumpkin
like,
guy.
"Oh my God. My story has become infamous now."
Nice. Oh, so one thing that that you said while telling this story that I just kind of want to like, I don't know, point out, like you picked it up at another fair.
Oh, yeah.
Like there's this whole culture of,
Yeah.
oh, I'll see you at this like these people you only see at fairs, but you see them enough that you
Yes.
can plan on meeting up.
Yes. Yes. So, yeah, here's another fun fact about especially Ren Fair culture here in California. Um, our state has a fair every month. Like, no other state in the country has that many fairs. We're the only one. So it definitely, yeah, helps allow for that to happen. Because it's the same people. It's the same. A lot of them are same vendors. It's a lot of the same guilds. So if you go to different fairs, you kind of see the same people, and you're like, "Oh,
Yeah,
nice to
you get to
see
know
you."
people and you're like, "Oh,
Yeah,
my friend from this yeah, and it's
yeah,
like this do you like, for example, there's, right next to your at least this last year when I saw you dance, right next to your, like, setup, there's a whole pirate setup. Like, do you just, like, know those pirate guys and, like, just
You
travel
know,
with
I've
them?
honestly only ever seen them at our fair. I think
Okay.
they do more of the southern ones. I think they do Irwindale and Escondido, and those are like the really big fairs that they probably make more money at those
Mhm.
ones. I mean, I'm sure they're making a decent amount at ours too, but um yeah, I don't think I've seen them anywhere else. I've seen the guy who does the parrot act, the foul tales. I've seen him pretty much every fair we've ever gone to. Like him and his wife are just they're dedicated.
Yeah. Do you think that this is some people's, like, main
Oh
livelihood? This is
yes,
kind of outside of our
absolutely.
belly dancing, but, like, yeah.
Yes. Yeah, especially the vendors. The guilds maybe about like half and half. I think some people just do it just because it's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know the vendors for sure. Like this is their breadwinner.
Yeah.
I did have one incident in Ojai Fair where I was just walking with my girlfriends. We were just strolling around the fair, and this guy comes up to me and he's just like, "Oh, my lady, you are so beautiful." I, and he referenced some like daring deed that he would be willing to win me over. And I'm just like rolling with it, like, "Oh gosh, oh, if you say so." And then this other guy just kind of appears out of nowhere and he's like, "No, my lady, I would do this." And it was like something even more ridiculous. And I was just like, "Oh, well that's nice." And then they start going back and forth towards each other, and I was slightly concerned because then they started to like raise their voices. Like, I mean, I was like, "Is this gonna turn into a fight?" And a part of you is like, "Oh no, that's terrible." But then another part of you is like slightly turned on
Fight,
the
fight,
idea of two
fight.
men fighting over you. So I was like, "Boys, boys, don't fight over me unless you absolutely have to."
Yeah, Ren Fair is just I mean, I've really enjoyed hearing, like, just kind of, again, it's kind of a niche thing where
Yeah.
for those who are in it, there's just so much, and there's so much richness and joy
Yes.
that
It's
happens.
like when
And
you combine like a theater kid
yeah.
and
And then they
a
majored in
super
history.
nerd, like a D&D nerd, and then someone who just really loves alcohol. Like I always describe Rennies as the alcoholics of the nerds, and I mean
But
that in the best way possible.
yeah. Okay. So let's go back to um there was one thing I wanted to come back to in the belly dance side of things. You've mentioned solos a couple times. Do you remember your first solo?
Oh boy, I think so. It was at Renn Faire. And yeah, I think it was again one of those moments where we just needed to fill time.
Yeah.
And my dance teacher was just like, Do you wanna solo?" And I'm like, I I guess so. I'll try. I'll do my best.
So when you solo, is that an opportunity to be a little more freeform, or do you plan
Yes.
out what you're gonna
Yes.
do?
I mean, there are some dancers who super choreograph their solos. Um, and I think I would do that more if I was on a stage with recorded music, but at Renn Faire,
Mm,
a lot of times it's just improvised.
nice, nice. Yeah, because I saw you several times. So do you prefer soloing or do you prefer the group dancing?
Uh,
Or they're
I
just
mean,
different?
I like both. Yeah, like I mean, soloing is fun because yeah, it's just you. I mean, you're getting all the attention, and
Yeah.
I love attention. But dancing with a group is fun too. I think I like doing duets a lot.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, so
yeah,
like me and either Nikki or Sarah will do a duet of a sword dance together, and that is really fun. It's a little bit easier to kind of sync yourself up with another person if it's just one person.
hmm
Sometimes with the group dances, it's hard to get everybody coordinated and right on the money
yeah.
together. But if it's
It's
just
pretty
one other
incredible
person,
when that does happen. Like,
yes.
it looks amazing. Yeah. So with a duet, is that choreographed or is that
That's
also
usually choreographed,
okay?
yes. But I mean, hey, there are times where something wonky happens and we've kind of just like self-taught ourselves to just roll with it. And that's something I've been taught by a lot of different dance instructors, no matter what style of dance you're learning, is learning to just kind of adapt when something goes wrong. Just keep doing like something, keep that smile up, pose, whatever you gotta do to keep it going. Because, like, we've done our sword dance, and a sword had fallen off of a girl's head, and they had to just keep going, like, just keep doing the move as if
Right.
they had a sword still.
Oh, that's so scary. Has anyone been hurt by a sword?
No,
Nice.
no,
Well,
not
that's
not that I
good.
know of.
That's good. I mean, I'm sure someone somewhere in the history, yes,
Yes,
but like
yes.
I
We
meant in your
actually we actually
experience,
like
like
to
your
joke that somebody did get hurt at some point. I think Nanette and I and the girls, we came up with this whole bit of how, like, we're gonna go out and do the sword dance, and Nanette will try and stop us, and she'll be like, "Don't you remember what happened the last time you guys did this?" And
yeah.
we're like, "What? What are you talking about? He just lost one ear. He had two. He's fine."
It's an extra.
Yes.
Yeah. Have you so she's mainly the one who does a lot of the interaction with the like leads the narrative, or have you done that too?
I've done a little bit too. We used to have a girl in our group who was Sika. She was a theater kid, like legit theater kid, and she was the most interactive with the crowd. I mean, she would come up with these bits that would just be so funny. Like we're trying to be serious because we're supposed to be in on it, but I would laugh sometimes so hard I'd had to like hide my face in a scarf or something. She would do this thing where we would have the good dancer, bad dancer. So we would pick a girl who was supposed to be the good dancer, and they were arguing over who was the better dancer.
Right.
So we'd purposely have one girl dance well, and then Sika would pretend to be bad, like purposely dancing just awful.
Right.
And every time she had to like top herself and do something more outrageous than this. Oh gosh, there was this time she like she was like trying to do a shimmy, but like again, doing it badly. So she would just do like convulsing thing. And then one time she just dropped down on her stomach and just doing like a swimming thing. That one, oh my God, that one had me in stitches. I was laughing so hard.
Yeah, just doing like weird dance moves from
Yes,
the
yes. And
80s.
she would heckle people in the audience too. When someone was soloing sometimes, like she would go and sit next to some random person and start talking to them. Like, do you like the show? Yeah. Are you gonna give us a good tip? They were like the people just didn't know what to do. They were like, oh yeah, okay.
I think what's so interesting about this little like microculture that you're part of is there's like this whole like deep element of music with these
Mhm.
complex rhythms, and I know some of the music from that area like harmonically is just really fascinating,
Yeah.
and way more complex than even Western music sometimes. So there's like this whole deep like music thing. There's this whole deep history thing. There's like actual like your knowledge of each piece of these has to be, fairly intensive.
Yeah.
And then also like there's this element of just ridiculousness and
Yes.
performing. I mean, you're at a Renn Fair, which is kind of ridiculous just in and of
Mhm.
itself. You're trying to make it like yes, it's a historical performance, but it's also like needs to be entertaining, and there's
Yes.
lots of kids. It's a family friendly
Yeah.
thing.
I
so-
always tell people like the whole point of Renn Fair, even the ones that try to be historically accurate, I mean, they're not. They're never going to be
yeah.
purely historically accurate because if they were, no one would have any fun at all. Maybe like the royalty and the nobles would be having fun, but
Right.
nobody else would be really having fun. So yeah, I always think of it as more as like it's a modern recreation of an idyllic version of
Yeah.
that time and period.
Yeah. No, I think that's a really good way to put it, because I want myself a giant turkey leg.
Yeah.
And that may
Yeah.
not
And
have
that's
been.
like like turkey legs were not historically accurate, but
that's an American bird.
it is. It is. But it also it's popular and yeah, it's a big meaty meal, so
Yeah.
people are willing to stand in line for that.
Yep. And then you get to feel like, you're eating
Yes,
this
I
big
feel like a
old-
barbarian as I gnaw on this giant leg.
Right. Yeah, no, that's again, it's such an interesting like little subculture here.
Mhm.
There's like several. There's the music. Okay, so let's talk about the drummers. What do you do? So how often would you say you dance to recorded versus live music?
At Renn Fair or just like in general?
I don't know. I was thinking
Okay.
in general, but either way.
Well, so like I said, some of the Renn Fairs that want to be more historically accurate, they won't let us have recorded music. And for a long time, Slow was like that. They recently changed their tune, I'm assuming because of the pandemic.
Yeah.
But yes, typically we would just have live drummers. A lot of the more like pleasure fantasy fairs, because it was already a free for all to begin with, they didn't care if we had recorded music, which actually was nice because our drummers, like, we can only perform what the drummers know how to drum. So
Sure.
if the drummers don't practice and rehearse things, we can't perform that dance. So if we had our recorded music, it was a lot easier.
Sure.
Let's see, for San Jose and Vegas Fair, we could have recorded music. And Vegas Fair was definitely a must because it was farther away, so not a lot of people in our troupe would go to it.
Mhm.
So we usually had a much smaller group for them. There was one year, it was only me and another dancer
For the whole time?
for the whole time. And Vegas is 3 days. It's Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So and this other dancer, she's not even technically in our group. She was just like a guest dancer that we've become really good friends with. She lives in San Jose. And so we were just kind of looking at each other and we're like, well, I guess we're just going to have to do a lot of improvisation.
Yeah.
But oh God, she's an amazing dancer. Her name's Firefly. If you live in the Bay Area and you're ever able to watch Firefly, do it because
Nice.
she's incredible. Like, I know that I've gotten to a pretty good level now, but like
Larissa's amazing.
Firefly is just something else. She's just incredible. Yeah, she's so good at reading somebody else, like anticipating their body language and what they're gonna do next. So when we had to do that fair and it was just the two of us, she could kind of read me and predict what I was gonna do, so we could kind of like feed off of each other. And that was actually a really fun fair. We had to perform in front of a king and queen for their dinner. And we were both just like, okay, so I guess what we'll do is you'll solo, I'll solo, and then we'll do a song kind of together.
Yes.
And yeah, we killed it. So.
Nice. That's awesome. What do you think is next for you for the belly dancing?
Well, our troupe has kind of declined as of late. A lot
Yeah.
of the dancers have moved away. And we just haven't been able to get new people really in. And
I
then
think COVID was rough on performing groups generally.
Yes. And then my dance teacher, she's been having a lot of health issues, so I'm not sure if she's ever going to really be able to teach new people again. So I'm actually looking to start teaching myself.
Nice.
I just need to find the right place to do that. But yeah, I think that's going to be the next adventure, is teaching, which I've never done before.
Oh, very exciting. Teaching is awesome.
Yeah.
You'll totally rock it. I
Yeah.
absolutely know that. Awesome. So for my last question, there is a so do you know what zeitgeist means? Zeitgeist radio.
You'll have to remind
zeitgeist.
me.
Yeah. So zeitgeist is like spirit of the times.
Okay.
And it's kind of like that feeling for what it's like to be like alive and part of a dynamic culture. And there's a moment that I call a zeitgeist moment, which like every single person, I think, who enjoys music at all has had this. And I'm always so interested to ask my guests, like, they all do such different things, but they've all had this moment. And so I call it a zeitgeist moment, where you're listening to music, so music is part of it, but you just feel like you just like come alive, and you feel like something just clicks for you, and you just like there's like a flow, or whatever, where you just kind of like pop alive.
Yeah.
When was like either a recent zeitgeist moment or like a really memorable zeitgeist moment for you?
Oh man. Oh, I think I know the exact moment. This was back in Renn Faire, and I was soloing, and I don't know what it was. I just tapped into something. I was just on a roll. I was soloing, and like the crowd was kind of going crazy, and I was like spinning really, really fast at the end, and the drummers were like going really, really fast to like match my spinning, and I actually kind of tripped on my skirt, but when I landed and I like made this cool pose at the end. And everybody thought I had done it on purpose. And I was just like, oh my God, yes, I am a star.
Yes. Where even like your mistakes make you just like
Yes.
look so epic.
Yes. And then oh God, yeah, there was that one. And then when we were doing our primal set, we were performing at Ricasa, and there's this part in the music where we do this cool backbend. And I just remember hearing the crowd like go nuts when we did it. And I was just like, oh yeah.
Oh, that's so good. Well, Larissa, Zaara, thank you so much for being on my podcast.
Well, thanks for having me. This was so much fun.
Yeah.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Zeitgeist Radio. To uplevel your musical journey and become a music student for life, join the Zeitgeist Academy by signing up for my bi-weekly newsletter. You'll get exclusive content, blog posts, and behind-the-scenes insights. I love putting it together, and you'll love reading it. Head over to zeitgeistacademy.com/radio. That's ZEITGEIST academy.com/radio. Music for this episode was created by Ian Boswell. Please hit that subscribe button and tell all your friends you found a cool new podcast. See you next time.